Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I have an interview with Andrew Neeson. So me and Andrew actually used to work back together in the same gym in FlyFit when I first started as a PT, but he is working up in Belfast now and he lives up there. So we actually didn't have an exact plan of where we're going to, but we ended up kind of more talking about like the psychological parts of training, like where it's not just eat less, move more. And we also talked about, say, some of the similarities and differences he sees between men and women, because while he predominantly works with men now, he kind of has worked with a lot of women in the past as well. So I think this is really interesting, and we really talked about like different effects that social media has had on people, how people handle things differently, and how there's a lot more to training than just the basics. Well, there is. The basics are the best. But anyway, guys, enjoy this episode. Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I have got a guest for you. I have Andrew Neeson. So he is an online coach and self-professed Lord of Coaching. He may regret saying that to me. So welcome to the podcast, Andrew. How are you?
Welcome. Thank you very much for that of an introduction. I do now regret saying that to you.
Andrew, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been coaching now for close to about 10 years. Initially started off as a sports therapist, opening up an injury clinic in Belfast. And then over the years, became more interested obviously in the coaching element to it, and being able to see how we can actually really positively impact around rehab from a sports performance point of view, rather than just being very clinical about it. And then that obviously led more into coaching. So ended up working down in Dublin with yourself, and I just got more into coaching around being able to develop people, being able to see how they can change in terms of their confidence, how they feel about themselves, and also really working on that nutrition point of view, where I started doing precision nutrition level 1. And I think that's kind of born out of being really overweight myself back when I was younger and struggling with weight pretty much up to my, I would say, early 20s, of just doing stupid stuff to try and lose weight. The things that everybody does: cut out carbs, cut out crap, cut out sweets and crisps and all of that. And that just led me to always being going up and down in terms of weight, diet, and never really being happy. So I think I've always had that interest around training and rehab, but obviously then bringing back to my own roots a little bit of what I actually saw was obviously an area of insecurity for me, and then trying to tap into that a little bit, of being able to help people with those same insecurities, but also being able to work in that rehab field at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about going through the like cutting out carbs and stuff like that, because I suppose it's something you don't hear so much about men doing. Like, you know, you hear women doing every diet under the book, but it's kind of rarely you hear that with lads, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, you very rarely hear it with guys, and I don't know why that is. Like, I'll freely admit that there's times that I've spoken to friends and who are also coaches that have gone through sort of similar paths to much greater extent than I. Like, there's a guy that I know who is actually recovering. Well, not recovering, but he was anorexic, and I just did to lose weight. Like, I just did everything that I needed to lose weight, or that I thought that I needed to. Like, I grew up in a household where there wasn't a great understanding around food. At one stage, I think one stage when I was about 14, I was wearing like double XL t-shirts. Like, I've got a great photograph of me in a Mighty Ducks t-shirt, where it literally looks as if I'm wearing my dad's clothes, and I'm about 8, and I'm not. I'm about 14 to 16. And I just did all of the wrong things of just, right, I'm not eating, starving myself, starting to get to a point even where, I was taking pride in when I actually did lose weight, when I was a little bit older, I started to take pride in trying to go under what was a healthy weight instead of being able to maintain a weight, and didn't really grasp that concept at all. And even like thinking about it's only recently that I actually sort of figured this out of like I would have definitely verged into sort of bulimic episodes where I would have eaten stuff that I shouldn't have eaten or perceived that I shouldn't have eaten, and being the key point of that. And that was it. Go and make yourself sick. Okay, I feel better now. I'm not as bad a person or as an individual for eating that, and now get on with the rest of your life and the rest of your day, and just all of the things that really don't lead to, I suppose, a long-term health, both physically and also really significantly there, but you don't realize at the times mentally of what you're creating is like that dogma around, oh, what do I eat? How do I do this? I need to be purging myself. I need to be reducing all of this. And it's only in the last, really since that PN precision nutrition qualification, that's where like I started to get more understanding around it, and started to be able to put in an awful lot more practice of practice isn't the right word, but realize that some of the behaviors that I developed obviously weren't beneficial. Now I'd understood that before, but hadn't really grasped it fully, but also then started to realize some of the behaviors that I had developed at the time and some of the habits were key to being able to maintain a normal relationship with food and a normal relationship with weight and managing that.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, like I think I've done a lot of the starving and binging stuff as well myself as a kid. The only reason I ever made myself sick is because I couldn't stand getting sick. So, so like it probably saved me in a sense. But I say as a kid, like even as I started as a PT, like didn't know any of the stuff. You'd still like, oh, going away, you want to cut carbs and all these mad things, or feel like you have to show that you're eating the perfect stuff all the time because you're a personal trainer. You don't do anything like that. When that's like just as unhealthy.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and that's one of the things with PT, I suppose, that's where the industry could improve a little bit, is that realistically, what we know around nutrition when we finish up, when you get qualified is level 3, it's really not worth what it's printed on. It doesn't really give you any great degree of ability to help people, and certainly there's not even any great understanding behind the psychology around what's going on with individuals who are in that place. And I think that's something that needs to be improved. But yeah, I think we just all tend to get into that position where it's like, right, what do we do? And we do feel that pressure of presenting to the world that perfect image. Like, I like to look back now on some of the things I would have done, oh geez, even 6 years ago, and going like, Jesus, I would never have done that. I would never do that now. What the hell was I thinking? And then you kind of remind yourself of going, actually, at least I'm looking back on that from hindsight and going, that was ridiculous. I would never do that now. And it means that I've learned, but there's still an awful lot of people that I would, that still look back, and you hear, because you overhear still in the industry, you overhear like recommendations or chat generally on the gym floor from PTs, and you're like, are you genuinely actually giving that recommendation to someone? And that's not from a place of judgment, because by God, I've been there. I look back, as I say, and go, I've made those recommendations, which I think it's such an important area for any facet of life, I suppose, is being able to look back and realize that there are changes there. But like, you still look at some of the things that you would still see, and I still use this with the guys that I work with, is my Fitness Pal. And the reality with my Fitness Pal is that actually all that my Fitness Pal is really useful for is realistically, it's most useful if you're trying to get into contest prep shape and you're looking at being on stage in a pair of budgie smugglers or a bikini, And like, you're going to want to look good. You want everything down and dialed into that nth degree, because ultimately you are putting yourself on a stage to be judged on how you look. That is mind-blowingly mental to me. There's no way I would ever want to do that, but I get that people do it. But yeah, what we you see is like that reverse engineering off it, of going, all right, well, let's take this, because this guy looked ultra lean, or this girl, her legs and backside looked fantastic, so we'll do exactly the same thing that they did. And we kind of miss out again around that sort of mental point that actually, in these two populations being, well, not two populations, but one population of being, ultra competitive bodybuilders and physique competitors, that they're also the population that tends to, within sport, that tends to have the biggest the biggest issues around disordered eating and development of those conditions, because it is where you want to be. So it's like my fitness pal, and I still, like, it's not to say I don't use it. I do use it with guys, but it's from a point of view of going, right, I want you to see this in black and white, of going and breaking the dogma around good food and bad food, and understanding that actually, yes, you can have a pizza and still lose weight. But what's important there is the calories, but also then from the point of view of going, see that food that you think is good, yes, it's fine, but it still has an awful lot of calories, which means you need to be working on the back end of what you want to eat around that. Is that the choice that you want to make here, or do you want to make a different choice? It might actually be better for you to have the perceived bad food and have fewer calories within it than it might be for you to be eating that healthy food or good food.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, my fitness pal, it's grand. It's good for it's good for calculating and showing you what you're eating.
Yeah.
That's about it. Like,
oh God, yeah.
Do not ever take their recommendations on how many calories you should be taking.
No, definitely not. And also don't connect it up as your step counter, which is like the worst thing in the world. Thing in the world.
Do you think that, like, do you find so, like, clients still think that you would be in that, like, pinnacle of health, all you eat is good food, for want of a better description, and stuff like that? Like, would they ever, like, expect you would need a pizza or something like that? Do you ever get people saying stuff like that, like, you sure probably never eat anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. You get that all the time. Of like, oh, you wouldn't know it. It's not even so much like you wouldn't know what it's like, but it's more, you would never eat anything like that, or I'm sure you would never do that. And it's like, well, no, I do. Yeah, I went out to Oktoberfest and had a couple of drinks at Oktoberfest on Saturday, and then had a pizza when I came home. I'm also dieting at the moment to go away on holiday, but I didn't not do that part of the routine, because it's just, now it's like I need to have an element of normality, because if I don't, I can't stick to it. And it's just looking at how you work that into your, I suppose, your daily life and what you do differently. What I was saying to guys an awful lot of time, like, you've got three options realistically from that, is to be working that you've got a few calories saved up, I suppose, or that you take it out on credit and then you pay it back the following week, or you just realistically chalk it off and go, right, I've planned it in. I'm not off plan. This isn't something that wasn't supposed to happen. It was always there to happen. So I haven't fallen off plan, but I'm going back to that system and that process that I had in place to be able to give me that end result. And I'll just allow that system to deliver for me over the course of the week, rather than having to make any massive changes to what you're doing on a daily basis. But yeah, I get that all of the time. And definitely, like what you said earlier about, looking back at stuff now, it means that you've grown. And I think I love, sometimes Instagram and Facebook are fantastic for that. Sometimes they give you a memory that you're like, I really didn't want to see that. But there's definitely photos. I definitely went through that phase, even 7-8 years ago, where it was, you took the photograph of your food to post on social media to show everybody how clean you were and how healthy you were. Like, at the same rate, I can't remember which comedian it is, but what did we do before that of just running around the neighbors? Look what I'm eating, and knocking on the door. And the ridiculousness of that, of going, right, this is, and again, because now we understand so much more that the likes of social media is is your highlight reel. So
Yeah.
you can be posting all of those photos and going, oh, look what I'm doing. This is how healthy I'm being. And look at this. And then in reality, that's not where you're at. And you probably know, I definitely know of a couple of people in the industry who, and that's where I would probably get a little bit frustrated with it, would be that's their social media feed. But in reality, we know that they're not doing that and then sort of feeling bad, like they're going out and having their McDonald's, and then they're feeling bad and they're coming in right and going, I'm going to go on a Stairmaster for an hour to be able to counteract that impact. And you're going like, how is that realistic for your client? How do you help them understand where you need to be? Because if you're turning around and going and doing an hour gym session and then doing another two, like most people don't have the ability to get into the gym realistically for an hour 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to help them out if you're going, oh, well, I had a McDonald's, but I went and did a strength training session earlier this morning, and then I went back in later on and did another hour in the Stairmaster.
Yeah, no, I get it as well. I suppose as well, like you're saying with them, when you were posting those photos, like you weren't posting your points at the weekend, were you?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I did mean to put up the photos from the weekend this weekend, but I didn't get around to it. I haven't been that active on social media recently because it's just not a good place to be at times. But yeah, I haven't posted those yet, but I will now that you bring it up.
So you mostly work with guys now, don't you?
Yeah, so I've worked. Well, I suppose I can work with different sort of subsections of the community at different times. I suppose that's one way of putting it. But yeah, like back in Dublin, it was generally an even mix. When I moved back to Belfast, more work with women, and now trying to work more with guys. Definitely because I suppose it's that realization that, well, I've had this realization before, but I am a man, and I know what those problems are. Like I've experienced them. Whereas, and it's not to say that I can't empathize and understand that, because they've definitely helped the girls that I've worked with in the past. But there's also then a range of issues that I can't really empathize with. To the same extent, I'm not. Well, I suppose this sounds a bit strange, but generally guys don't tend to be bitchy about one another. You're not going to get a sly comment from a fella to another one. We tend to be much more in our own head, in my opinion. I could be wrong with that. But we won't tell anybody else about that. We'll just sort of self-deprecate ourselves. Whereas women tend to have that more of an underhand kind of, I suppose that backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
At times, and like that's not to say that obviously that creates long-term problems that you can't help with, but there's definitely, I think, an element of being able to really zone in on how people feel, excuse me, and what their driving force behind looking better is, what their driving force behind feeling better is. And having had those experiences, I can relate to those an awful lot more than what it is for a female, I suppose. That's my opinion on it. I could be wrong.
I kind of get what you mean. No, to be fair, right, I will say this: men can be just as bitchy as women, but they will bitch about each other. But you won't get like the backhanded compliments. You don't really get that from lads. Lads won't say it to your face, or they will bluntly. It's one or the other. They'll bitch about you, or they'll bluntly say it to you. Whereas a girl will throw that little, oh, you're looking great today in that dress.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose it's like you're going to get one thing with lads that they'll either say it behind your back or they'll full on smack you in the face with it. Whereas, and sometimes like in a almost jokey, jovial, playful sort of way at times. Whereas there is that, I think, at times with women, it tends to be that sort of you slip the jab without actually, expecting that it's coming at times. And I
Yeah,
think that's,
there's a tonal inflection.
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the ability to read that.
Yeah. I know I have no problem admitting that. I've probably done it in my time.
So have I, actually, to be fair.
I think this is why I don't hang out with women. Do you find though, like, say when it comes to certain how they handle training, how they handle like relationship with food, is it similar or do you see much differences in that?
Yeah, I think in training, yeah, I suppose actually, funnily with training, when you ask that, that's a class question. In my experience, what you tend to see is, or what I've tended to see, is that guys tend to be quite quick to go into the gym and just do whatever the hell they want. I've seen somebody do this, so I'm going to go and do this, or I'm going to go and deadlift, or I'm going to go and do that. And it's almost as if, it's that I'm a man, so I know how to lift heavy stuff from birth. Women tend to be much more cautious around doing that, and tend to stick to the things that, well, like the reality of that is that most of us tend to stick to the stuff that we're comfortable with, regardless of what the situation is. But women will then tend to stick an awful lot more to, and for good reason. Like I remember the gym I used to work at in East Belfast. I remember going into that back in 2010, and I remember training in it. And again, to point out, I'm a guy. I felt insecure in the free weights area. It was an intimidating environment. And I even remember having somebody come up to me in the free weights area one night and tell me off. And it wasn't like a jokey telling me off. He wasn't happy with how I was doing something, so he came over and felt that he could tell me off that wasn't the way it was done. And I can understand why women therefore would be a little bit more sort of hold back from that. And it still happens. There's plenty of gyms across the country and plenty of gyms around the world that'll still happen, which is something that needs to change, to be fair. But I think then with nutrition, that's like, I would, one of the big things that I always would have asked, when I was chatting to women and we're potentially looking at, right, I want to create this result, and you're looking at, okay, so what are the obstacles to that? And you're like, right, so what are your challenges around nutrition? And I actually had one a couple of days ago, because although I predominantly work with guys, I would still take on the odd female client, provided that I feel that I can help them. And it's like, yeah, I don't have any problems with nutrition. I just cut out carbs. I just starve or cut out carbs. And I'm like, okay, so your perception is that you don't have any problems with nutrition, but the reality of that is very, very different. Whereas guys tend to be the ones then that come in and start asking about, well, what should be my macros? How many, what should be my protein? What needs to be this? So it tends to be like the inverse around training and nutrition. Guys tend to be more like overly confident around the training element. And then really, in my opinion, insecure is probably a strong word, but unsure maybe in around nutrition, whereas women tend to be much more unsure around the training element, but then overly confident around the nutrition element. And I suppose, like, when you look at, and this is maybe a gross generalization, but there's not the amount of media that is aimed towards women, and not even in relation to, it doesn't need to be like a health magazine. It could be something like Life or Hello or something like that. But the amount of information is sort of directed around, oh, you need to be eating this, or this is the perfect diet, or this is so-and-so's diet. She's cut out all of this. It's probably no wonder why women tend to go, oh, I know exactly what I should be doing around this. I need to cut out carbs and I need to be doing that. And guys are tending not to get that sort of, they're getting more of like the magazine where, I suppose, the stereotypical men's health, and it's like, go in and do these sets, do these reps, do that. And therefore they're not getting anything around nutrition. So that's where they're like, oh, I should be working harder on this, and this is where I need help with.
How much steak do I eat?
Exactly. Is it steak for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or two for breakfast and one for dinner?
Or should I have chicken for lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and I do think the magazines and stuff have a lot to blame for that. Like, it's very hard. I say if you walked into a newsagent now and looked at the women's magazines, that 9 out of 10, if not all of them, would have do this day to lose 10 pounds in a week, or Kim Kardashian's latest way to, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Get this surgery effect without actually getting surgery.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think that it's more helpful. Sorry, it's more harmful than helpful
Yeah.
in an awful lot of instances. If you look, even I was thinking about this earlier, and obviously it's a very difficult subject to really go into because it's quite expansive. But you look at what the HSE advice there, what was it yesterday, and the guidance around obesity, changing it to a chronic condition rather than a lifestyle choice and lifestyle choices. And the way I heard that introduced in the radio was, and I'm not even joking about this. So it turns out that moving more and eating less is not a good way of being able to lose weight. And I'm like, is that really the level that at the and I don't know. I have to admit, it's good to see that obviously there's an element of going within the medical professionals to, right, this isn't just you need to eat a little bit less, you need to move a little bit more, because if it was that simple, holy shit, it would be really, really easy. Yeah. And there wouldn't be an obesity element in the world. But it's just I think I would like to think any fitness professional, any coach would be able to say it's not as simple as eat less, move more. And the fact that anybody potentially thought that, and again, it kind of maybe media has an awful lot, because that's a real hard-hitting sort of statement to make. It does make you sit up and take notice a little bit, but at the same rate, if that was sort of the overriding thought process, is it any wonder why this has been it is such an issue for an awful lot of people?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's that whole, like, I suppose you're hearing on the radio, it's their version of clickbait, so you pay attention.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. Social media isn't helping the situation. Like, with all the feckin' shite people can sell online. Like, I saw earrings that'll help you lose weight last week. An ad.
That they're not going to work for me. I haven't got my ears pierced yet, but I would consider them.
I've like 10 piercings, so like I'd be a skeleton if I put them on.
Yeah, that's it. Definitely. I had a conversation with somebody 2 days ago about this, because I was on. I love YouTube for various different things, but my two favorite adverts at the moment are get ripped in 90 days with this Navy SEAL's amazing a device that he's invented, and without dieting or going to the gym. And I don't know, you're probably too young, but do you remember Slender Tone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're not that young. See, I was throwing you a compliment there, and you should have gone, yes. Yes, I don't remember those at all.
I'm only a few years younger than you, I do believe.
See, it's got to the stage now though where I'm training people that are, I remember that would have been sort of 12 when I was at uni, and I'm looking at them going, right, you're the same age as me, and then I say, do you remember this? And they're like, no, I've got no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, my two favorite ones at the moment are effectively a Slender Tone, and it shows this guy on a time warp video on YouTube just getting progressively leaner with this Slender Tone on his abs, and then two bands around his biceps. Or the one that I saw yesterday, which was brilliant, was I had to turn it off because it was actually a 15-minute advert, and I don't have time to watch it. But the gist of it was, lie flat on your back and drink ice cold water, and it showed how it was going to help you drop body fat. So yeah, definitely social media and the amount of stuff that you see just really muddies the waters, doesn't it?
I do really enjoy the fact that, because obviously I don't know, Google's bots or whoever's bots there, they are definitely a little bit special, because some of the stuff I get sent, I'm like, I get ads for gyms and stuff like that, and I'm like, this is literally my job. But like, because of that, I get these stupid things every so often. So then, like that, I get drawn into watching one of these ads and just being like, people aren't actually buying this, are they?
Yeah. That's a terrifying thing, isn't it? That somebody is, well, it's not, I suppose it's not terrifying to that extent of when you understand, and you'll get this as well, but like when you're in a place that you just absolutely hate how you look, when you look in the mirror and you're like, fuck, I would do absolutely anything to get rid of this.
Yeah.
And like there's definitely an element of behavioral issue around that, or behavior, not issue, but modification. Because, for some people going to the gym, well, there's various reasons why maybe going to the gym isn't useful. But at the same rate, there's also people who have gone to the gym, who have had trainers, who've had people coach them, and they haven't got a result that they wanted. And you're still left in that position where I want to change. So, I suppose it's terrifying that people buy it, but it's then sort of understandable in a way of going, you've tried everything else, and you're like, geez, what else have I got? My only concern would be if that's what your first port of call is, of going, buying that, let me try it, let's see what happens with it, and not do everything else, or not do the first thing of going, right, let's get to the gym, let's see if we can increase our overall activity, let's see if we can start modifying some of our behaviors around what we're eating and how we're eating, and do all of that. And I think, like, you do know in this, obviously, because we both love rugby, but one of the reasons why the All Blacks have definitely been the best team in the world for the last number of years is they just do the basics really, really well. And it sets the platform to be able to do all of the fancy stuff after that. And it's kind of, when it comes down to nutrition, when it comes down to exercise, it's lock in the basics for 90% of people. If you do those basics, that will deliver the result that you want. You don't need to make it any harder than that. So lock that in. And then if you decide that you have, because most of us do, we're all fairly goal orientated, adjust the goal once you've hit it. Then you can consider, right, do I need to change? Do I need to add anything more on top of those basics? Or would it just be a tweak of those that'll deliver that next step for me, or that next step?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like the basics, but of course, that's not sexy. So, nobody wants to do the basics. It doesn't sell, no. 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 I try to say that all the time. Like, the stuff I do when I'm training, they are the basic. I squat, I deadlift, I like pull-ups because they're really hard, stuff like that. I'm not doing a burpee finished off by a flip and then running 6 miles right after that. It's all this dull stuff, and you keep doing it repetitively, and then eventually you get to where you want to be.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's actually cool. That's what you said there. Like, I was thinking about this recently, and for most people, when they want to lose weight and they're in that place, they tend to look, again, social media has an awful lot to answer for in this, and other media outlets, I suppose, as well. But you tend to look at people and sort of put them in a pinnacle of how they look. There's somebody in the gym, and you oh God, that and they must be doing X, Y, and Z to be able to get to there. And I think one of the things that I have thought about in terms of my own sort of understanding around weight loss is that person, the person who's never had to lose weight, or the person who has lost weight and is successful at that weight loss and looks, not to say that they look good, or that they're happy with how they look. Again, it's so subjective as to whether or not they look good or not. And they've developed a set of behaviors, or they had that taught to them or ingrained naturally. Like the person that's never needed to lose weight has learned that throughout life, and they just do that innately. And the person that has lost weight has learned and had to teach themselves those behaviors innately, or so that they're now innate. And it's that doing it repetitively and consistently, and you just keep it going. But that starts to move you up the ladder, and that's where you want to get to it, where you're not thinking about it that much any longer, that it's just, this is innate, this is how it works. And the only way that you get that is by doing the reps effectively. And I don't mean that obviously in terms of the bench press, but just doing it repetitively.
Yeah. Like that could be going for a walk 3 days a week. Like that could get you to where you want to be, and just doing that.
Yeah.
Like, it's raining, you put a jacket on, you still do because it's part of what you do. Like
100%, and if your goal is outside of that, then, and you want to go to the gym, cool, then you use that. It could be, it's one of those things of, I suppose, and this is a bit strange one, but it could be what people have definitely said to me, and what you've definitely heard it as well, Chrissy, is like, oh, I don't have motivation. Well, the reason why you don't have motivation is because you're trying to do stuff that you don't like doing.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Change the system so that it's something that you do like doing. If you don't, personally for me, I hate running. I do it because I see a value in it. What was that?
I also hate running.
Yeah. I've got a great running t-shirt from Nike that says running sucks. And I like to wear it regularly. But I do it because there's a value to it that I can go, okay, I don't enjoy this, but there's something that I'm going to get from it, which is more important to me. And therefore I can do it. And that's going to be around fitness and, being able to have effectively, I suppose, a cardiovascular system that is working. I want to be fit on multiple levels, so strength and aerobically. But if you don't like doing that, don't do it. But yet the amount of people that will go into a gym and go and run on a treadmill,
yeah,
and then go, I hate going to the gym. Is it any fucking wonder? Because if you're anything like me, you don't enjoy that. And it put me on a treadmill to run. I had to do it last week, and it's the most boring thing in the world. At least if I'm out running down the street, there's stuff passing me by, and I know when I'm coming to the end, instead of looking to the clock of going, holy shit, is that only a minute? Yeah. And but it's change it. Go for a walk, go to the gym, lift weights, find something that challenges, find something that actually that motivates you to go and do. And it could be pushing yourself, within, as you mentioned there about, selecting pull-ups because they're hard. There's that end goal, there's that end payoff of being able to achieve that and stand and look at yourself and go, I made that happen. That's cool. Or it could be go and join a triathlon club and go and do it that way, but stop picking the things that you don't necessarily like doing.
Yeah, no, I get you as well. Like I'm the same with running. I don't like running. I was doing it because I was doing a half marathon. I done a half marathon, and since half marathon's over, I haven't been arsed running. But I ran up until about September, I think. I was trying to do twice a week, and now I'm like, you know what? I've had enough of it for the moment. So will I still do some cardio? Yes. I'm horse riding, but I'm always horse riding, so I don't really count that. And now I'm doing a bit I'm trying to do maybe twice a week on the bike or do some ski on the ski because I'm and I just changed it because I don't want to run, so I'm not going to run for a while. Simple as I still get it in. I just have to do something different.
Do something differently, yeah, exactly. Like even, I, as I said earlier, I'm going away on holiday, so I'm dieting currently. Yesterday was a relatively, I had to sit on a coaching call for about 4 hours yesterday, and I was then working in the physio clinic that night that I was working, and it's like I've got nothing done. I've got my lifting session done, and I've got a walk with the dog, and I've been stationary for the rest of the day. So it's just like, let me just take the dog out for another walk. Yeah. Or get an extra little bit of activity in, and people sort of discount how that's a big thing, I suppose. And you asked that question earlier, which, in relation to male, female, what's the sort of similarities or differences between them? And I think that's one area that both really fall down on, is this perception of, I need to go to the gym because the gym's the best place to lose weight. And in reality, it's actually not, because you're not burning that many calories when you're there. Like, yeah, you're burning, if you've been sitting in your backside working because you have to, yes, you're burning more calories than what you're doing from that point of view. But your overall activity and how active you can make that day is just going to that's going to burn for you, or not burn, but it's going to deliver so much more, as well as being able to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And then I think the big one that I've been speaking to people regularly about is the perception that the harder you work in the gym, the more calories that you burn. So you see people going in and smashing stuff out, and sweats off them, running off them, and you're like, yeah, but you've only done 10 minutes of work, and you've only been able to maybe work 5 of those 10 minutes, and you've burnt 50 calories. You've only, it's like that. This concept of, right, I need to go and smash myself, I need to push myself to the absolute limit when I'm there. And the truth is, it doesn't actually really burn that many calories. So it's having the exact opposite impact. You would be much better going for a long walk. Now, that's not to say of what, that's what you should be doing rather than going to the gym, but it's focusing in on what is the purpose of your training. You're going to try and focus in on that purpose from a fitness point of view. Like, what is it given to you fitness wise? As you said there, instead of going for a run, you're going to use the ski, but it's giving you that same adaptation.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for. But if you're going there to go in, right, and I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can to burn as many calories as I can, that's the wrong mentality to be going in with, because it's not going to work that way. And years ago, somebody said it to me, I can't remember who it was, but it was really, really true, of going, like, if you can go into a spin class, like, the spin class is fantastic. I've done them in the past. I do enjoy them in terms of like cardio. I would much prefer going out on a bike than I would do to go for a run. But I'm also aware that to go out on a bike and to burn sort of equivalent calories, if you're looking at it from that point of view, I've got to do a couple of miles to do that, and then that comes into time. Whereas if I go for a 5K run, I'm looking at 30 minutes, and it gives me something similar to that. But it would come down to, like, if you can go to a spin class and you can burn 500 to 600 calories in that spin class, definitely people do it, depending on how hard they're working and intensity. Guess what? They're not the people, though, that have difficulty losing weight. If they're already where they want to be, they're already pushing the button where they need to be for that. If you're coming into a gym, you're overweight, your work capacity is relatively low in comparison to somebody who is fitter, they've done more work, they're going to be. And it's not a case of being ashamed of that. It's just the reality of what's being done. And you're trying to improve yourself. You're trying to take that, those first couple of steps in the ladder. I'm not saying don't go to a spin class. It would just be more along the lines of, you're not going to go into that spin class and burn 500, 600 calories. It's just not going to happen for you when you get fitter, when you are closer probably to, the weight. Or I don't like using that term, because, that's a different off tangent to the conversation, but we all tend to use weight as that sort of measure of, am I progressing? And going, like, nobody in your life has ever said to you that you're very sexy, 65 kilos. Nobody's come. You're looking for a very good toned 80 kilos a day. Well done. Good on you. Most people are going to look at you and go, you look great. Have you been going to the gym? Have you lost weight? And it's based on how you look. But yet, for some bizarre reason, well, it's not for a bizarre reason. It's because, again, social media and media in general place such an emphasis on, Kim Kardashian now weighs this much. And it's like, well, actually, what you're really looking to do there is to change how you look. You don't care about your weight. So let's start looking at that as the metric. But
I've done that actually with people before, because they're like, oh, people compare themselves to me loads or whatever, kind of, because I'm in good shape, whatever you want to say. But like, I'm like, okay, so how like, they're saying, oh, I can't believe I weigh this much. I'm like, guess how much I weigh? They're always way off. Yeah. And I'm always at least 5, if not 10 kilos heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. Stop using weight as a metric. It's, as I say to guys, how confident are you if you're driving down the road, if you stick your hand out the window, that you'll be able to tell what speed you're going based on how hard the air is moving over? And you're like, you can't. You'll know you're going faster, you'll know you're going slower. So what you need there is to tell you, in terms of progress, is the speedometer. The scales are the same thing. So stop getting on them and expecting them, to be telling you, if you're looking better, or what as using it as a metric of success, I suppose, is the best way of putting it. It's just telling you how fast you're going towards the destination, and it's giving you more information, and it's giving you more data then to come back from what you've done over that week and make a decision of, what did I do well here? What could I maybe change differently? Okay, that's the part of the process that I need to be more focused in on rather than the end result. That's just the speed of telling you what way you're going.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of saying it, actually. I never thought of that one. That's a really good one. I like that. The speedometer.
Feel free to use that one.
I might. The I like what you're saying as well about people coming in and trying to absolutely kill themselves as well. To like feel like they've done a good workout. Like that seems to be a massive, like that's across the board thing. Like people are like, oh, I didn't sweat that much, and you're like, so I like, I don't know what it is about me. I don't sweat a lot, so I could do 3 sessions a week and barely break a sweat. You know, when I train legs, I generally do, because that's horrible.
Yes.
When I do cardio, I do too. But like that, it's like, you don't, I suppose, again, I'm like, look, you don't have to be crawling out of the gym to make a change.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, I was training today, and I was more upper body today. I didn't really start to sweat until I got to doing my arms. And it was because I didn't supersetted them, and that was, I wasn't getting the rest period. But yeah, and that is, and 100%, and people coming in and chasing, using calories of, I burnt this many calories in the gym today and it was good, and you're going, that isn't really the quality. That doesn't indicate the quality of the workout. It doesn't indicate what you've done. Yes, it indicates that you're active, but also you need to be bearing in mind is how you're measuring that, and going that watch is what I think. What is it? It's something like 10 to 15% out.
At least.
Yeah, at least that.
I think Apple Watch was the one that was the closest, but even then, it's like, it's at least 10 to 15, if not 20%.
Yeah, off what you need it to be, and it's like, so what's the point of using that as a metric for how good your training session was if the tool that's actually measuring it isn't accurate? And it's not to say that I've got my watch, it counts calories, but I'm not looking at it from a point of view of going, right, that's 100%, I know I've got that amount of calories burnt. It's just more coming back to it and going, right, okay, the closer that is towards the 3,000 mark, the happier I'm going to be. But I'm not going into the gym to say I must burn 1,000 calories, 100 calories, 500. I'm just going in, whatever that happens from the gym is going to be, that's what happens for that hour. Especially, like, this as well, but you're going in, if you're lifting weights for an hour, what are we going to say, 15, 20 minutes of that's probably actually recovery time. If you're doing, what, say 5, maybe 15, 20 minutes is a bit long, but you're literally doing your recovery, and the watch is still counting that you're exercising for that hour. And so that's well off. So what I'm looking to do with the rest of that is just, right, how active have I been? What have I been doing? Have I been walking? Have I been doing this? What way am I making that up to try and get there, rather than going into the gym and going, it must be this many calories. If I don't burn this many calories, it's not a good session.
Yeah.
And you're going, it's that, again, look at your fitness, excuse me, look at your gym training as a way of being able to improve fitness. What is it that you want? Do you want to be stronger? Do you want to be more aerobically fit? Do you want to actually just look, toned and have a shape and a definition? Okay, cool. Let's pick exercises that are going to target those specific adaptations that you want, and let's put a plan together. But that isn't going to be a case of you being really sweaty all of the time doing it. It can certainly feel great because you get a massive endorphin rush at the end of it, from that pushing through. But that doesn't mean that you should be walking out. Because that's another one, like the amount of times that I've spoken, again, it's across the board of, I need to be walking out of the gym crippled, or just about walking out of the gym crippled, because the session was that hard and it challenged me that much. And it's going, well, if that's what you wanted, you didn't even need to come to the gym. You could have stayed at home and done 100 burpees.
Yeah.
that you would have got the same feeling of that. You haven't really progressed that. And again, that's, I, I think that's, and it's not to smash social media or the industry as a whole, but like that's something that's definitely come through, because there used to be that whole no pain, no gain thing, and that's now sort of referred to as old school. I haven't
Yeah.
seen too many people use it recently, but you would still like see videos put up of, and it's definitely women more so than I've seen it of guys recently anyway, of their coach has worked their legs to the point where they can't walk properly as they're leaving the gym. And you're like, what was the point of that? What was the point of that training session, to literally make your client look like Bambi? Or was it to actually help them get more tone? Was it to help them lose weight? Because I guarantee if they're having difficulty walking out of the gym right now, they're not going to be able to walk for probably 2 to 3 days properly. As a result of that, they're not going to be burning that many calories because they're going to be sitting on their backside because it's sore to do anything else. And therefore, it's just been completely detrimental. It's had the exact opposite impact. If they've come to you and said, I want to tone up, lose weight, and be happy with what I see in the mirror, that entire session has been to the exact opposite outcome of what they've come to you for.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Cause like, it's not like, as we're saying, we're talking about these, like, it's not what's in the gym, it's everything about it. Like, cause the gym is 45 minutes. So, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. So that's great. And then the next 3 days, you can't get off the couch. You're probably going to eat some extra like calories because you feel sorry for yourself and sore.
Yeah.
I would. But yeah, that's really true. I think that kind of covers most of what I wanted to talk to you about. We kind of went off on our really cool, like, we kind of went more into the psychological stuff of everything as opposed to just eat less, move more.
Yes.
But there is one question I always ask people at the end of the podcast, and I wanted to ask you that. So, Andrew, what is the best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice. That's a
You can,
hard
you
one.
can, you can pick three if you want, because I always get like people are like, hmm.
Do you know what? Actually, no, I'll pick one. And genuinely, the best advice is no, sorry, I'll do two. So, number one is, when it comes to measuring success, and I'm going to have to paraphrase this because I can't really put it or sum it up too well. But I think for an awful lot of us, regardless of what it is, whether it's going to be weight loss, whether it's going to be job, whatever it might be, personal life, we tend to look at making stuff. We get to choose what success is. We get to choose what the rules are. Nobody else gets to choose that for us. But what we tend to do is to pick really, this is a bit harsh, but stupid markers, stupid indicators of success that make it hard for us to succeed, but then make it easy for us to fail. So choose successful indicators that make it easy for you to win. That builds momentum. That allows you to increase in confidence, and that allows you to continue to progress with everything else that you're doing, rather than choosing markers that indicate success based on how you, or that make it hard for you to succeed. So I suppose, from that point of view, it would be choosing weight and what the scales tell you as to whether or not you're succeeding at weight loss or looking better. And as I say to guys, you actually, and none of us do, none of us have the ability to make the scales drop. If we could, we would just do it. In the same way that I can make this cup come off the table, I can make that happen. I can't make it happen without actually physically moving the cup. And that's the same with weight loss. What you do have the ability to do, though, is to control the process that influences weight loss each week, and that's where you get to make your choices over. So what if, rather than being successful at losing weight, wasn't whether or not the scales were moving up and down, and it was, what was successful was the ability to control and influence the process, making the decisions when you need to make the decisions. That then becomes much easier for you to actually, God, I did really well this week. And that builds on it, rather than going, I've done everything that I needed to do, but the scales have gone up. And that's so deflating. And then I think the other bit kind of rolls into that is, it's actually simply review the process. And again, this applies to anything that you want it to, but we tend to keep doing the same stuff over again. without ever reviewing what the impact of it is. So we end up just adding more to it. And we're going like 100 miles an hour to nowhere and not seeing any progress that we'll want to. And that's how we burn out. That's when we lose motivation, because we're going, holy shit, I've got so much to do and I'm doing all of this on top of it. I've also got a life. I've got potentially got a family. I've got, I either have a partner or I would like to have a partner, which means I need to be doing things to obtain a partner or to keep my partner happy. And, it's right, well, what's the easiest thing to drop out of that equation? And it's like, all right, well, I'll just drop everything else because it's not giving me what I want. So review it and then pick out, okay, well, I could have done this differently. That didn't quite work that way for me, and change it and make sure that then review it the following week, whatever it is, whether it's going to be, within work, whether it's going to be fat loss, whether it's going to be, your relationship with your partner. Review what you're doing and then change it for the following week and see if you get a better result. And then you're starting to do effectively, you're going to be able to trim. This is a really bad expression, but you're going to be able to trim the fat, so to speak, and do less, but get a more positive outcome. So you're not working as hard, but getting more results.
Yeah, no, I like that as well. And also, if you feel like you're not doing well, if you review it, you might be able to see what actually has been working and you haven't noticed because you're not at your end goal yet.
100%. Yeah. And if you're not reviewing something, how do you know that you're progressing? And again, you kind of get lost in that element of, I suppose, the gap, of this is where I am, this is where I want to be. Holy shit, there's still this big distance to go between. And, you then go, what's the point of trying? And then, but it's only when you review and you go, yes, but I started back here. I started much further away and I'm actually halfway toward it. Yes, there's a good bit to go, but I've got halfway, and you only know that by coming back and reviewing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really good point. Before you go as well, Andrew, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so probably the two easiest places are on Facebook and Instagram. And if you just type in Andrew Neeson Coaching, and it will come up.
And brilliant. And as ever, guys, you can find me on Instagram, and it is Chris H Fitness. I also have the horse stuff, which you'll probably see me more active on. It's on Instagram and TikTok. It's at Strong in the Saddle _ on Instagram, and without the underscore on TikTok. And then my website as well is www.chrissyhawkins.com. So I just want to say thanks again for joining us today, Andrew.
No, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.